Wow. That film is definitely high-level masterpiece of being amazing. Cue that Spider-Verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, where's the party music? Oh. Yeah, I kinda deserved it, didn't I?
The filming Daniel.
Hey guys, it's Daniel here, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for the lateness of this video. I am sorry for the lateness of any other video, just, being my typical lazy self. But, of course that. But, yeah, I do apologise for more late videos coming out nowadays. But, regardless of that, I am finally back, and I couldn't have picked a better time to come back to my channel, because today I am going to review a really anticipated sequel that we've been waiting 4.5 years for, to that little masterpiece back in 2018, and it's finally here in cinemas now. That film being Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse takes place, I believe, a year and something months after Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and picks up with the lives of both Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man, and Gwen Stacy, aka Spider-Gwen, as they live their lives in their own universes after being sent through the Collider. But Gwen Stacy suddenly comes back into Miles' universe, and now they both reunite as they suddenly adventure across the Spider-Verse, as stated in the title, as they try to deal with a large threat to that Spider-Verse under the guidance and leadership of Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099. What could be the fate of the Spider-Verse could also be the fate of the trust between these characters, as well as other Spider individuals, both old and new. So, like everybody else around the world, and for those who might have seen my review all the way back in December 2018, you might have known and heard in that review that I really love the first Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I thought it was a great time for that movie to come out, and definitely exceeded and raised the stakes for animated movies to come, because this film was the first one to have that unique kind of art style. It looked like stop motion, but it was done in CG, and has a bit of anime references, but also like sketch references, and that's what I loved about this one, because it definitely brought comic book movies to life, while having some really cool animation, characters, voice acting, drama, comedy, writing, and what I consider one of the most iconic soundtracks, which is used in some of the most iconic scenes in an animated movie. So, because of the hype that the first film got, we've been counting the days until we could get a sequel to that movie, see where Miles Morales' story is going to turn, because he was a very interesting character, so what else could they do with the future of his character? And luckily, a year and a half ago, the first teaser look at this film was released, and it was also released as a part 1, because this is like a part 1 part 2 kind of deal. We have another one coming soon. I think they're trying to make this a trilogy, so I don't think that's really a spoiler because it was announced, but I'm not going to say what happens. So I was counting the days until we could finally go see this movie, and after watching it finally at the cinema recently, all I have to say is I think that with all the hype that the first film got, we might have been worried that a sequel wouldn't live up to that hype. But in my opinion, I think this is actually a little better than the first. Yes, I don't just think it's as good as the first film, but it overtakes it and blows it out of the water. Like, the first film felt very small compared to this one, with the high stakes and more detailed character arcs that this film gives to some of the characters. Speaking of which, let's talk about the characters, shall we? I love every single character in this film, both from the same oldcomers to the new addition. Like, the new characters definitely come off as intriguing, and the old characters are even more developed in this one than they were in the first. At least in terms of our two main characters, Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy. Of course, we have our real main character, Miles Morales, aka his version of Spider-Man, played by Shameik Moore. I hope that's how you pronounce his actor's name. And I still think he's a very sympathetic but also lovable kind of protagonist, because you can really feel like that he's definitely grown since the first movie. I mean, in the first film, he was kind of a little bit of a shaky teenager, like a bit of a shy teenager, and was at first not willing to put up a fight or the challenge with all this responsibility given to him, but by the end of the film he learned that responsibility to become Spider-Man, and now you can definitely tell that he's grown as Spider-Man. He has the quips of a Spider-Man, he has the fighting skills of a Spider-Man, but also has a bit more of the confidence in terms of being in his own universe, and also has the quips now and again. And his suit, like, he definitely went for a bit of an upgrade with the suit. Like, they definitely changed up because now they're red, not on his shoulder anymore, but they're under his arms, so I definitely noticed that little upgrade. You can tell that he's grown and he really cares about his family, no matter how strict or kind of disciplinary they are at him. But when he's travelled to the Spider-Verse, much more responsibility is put on his shoulders, and now with everything he's learned, he has to find out how to definitely increase it even more for this Spider-Verse. And he definitely realises what role he has and discovers what it means to be a hero. And I thought that he was perfectly voiced by the guy who voiced him. And also, he's also thinking about his relationship with his old comrades from the first movie. And speaking of the comrades, let's talk about Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy, once again played by Hailee Steinfeld, definitely has a much more prominent role in this movie than she was in the first. I mean, she had prominence enough in the first film, but I will admit that one of the nitpicks I did have with the first one is that I felt like there could have been more scenes with her and Miles bonding a bit more, and just like talking more about her backstory. Well, this film definitely improves that, because no matter what people say, if people say she's like the secondary character in the movie, I think I've read an article on that, but I'm really gonna call rubbish on that one, because in my opinion she's like the other main character. Like, they're both main characters, and as an other main character, she definitely stole the movie. In fact, many times it felt like this was her movie, because she gets more focus, she gets more character development, she has great scenes in terms of like how she's doing with her own life and her own universe, bonding with Miles and all that, and she has one of the best character arcs in the movie about self-confidence and letting people into her lives, which I won't say how, but she's definitely more developed, and I ate up Miles and Gwen's relationship. I mean, just the way that they would talk to each other, say some quips to each other, the way that they try to rekindle the relationship, discovering memories about each other in terms of like from the past and what they can find out now, and the tension that they have definitely just made me feel crushed, like, I don't want to say that, because they're both just wonderful characters, and together they are an unstoppable, lovable duo and team. And I thought that Hailee Steinfeld did a great job. This is honestly one of her best performances. Or at least maybe her best performances, because she comes off as very dramatic, but also still has the quips of a spider person. And also, as you've seen on one of the posters, and you've seen him in some of the trailers, we also have the return of Peter B. Parker, played once again by Jake Johnson. And he was definitely much more of a main character in the first film than he was in this one, but I still think he's just as good. He's still funny, he's still interesting, he has definitely grown since the first movie, and also found more ways to like open up and all about that, and I thought he was fantastic. You don't see him a lot, but for the time that you do see him, yes. So we got some of the old characters out of the way. What about the new characters? Well, I thought that the Kingpin in the first film was a great villain. These ones, though, were great villains. And great new characters to the franchise as well. So we have in the trailers, and as in the marketing, we also have Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac. And I thought that he did a great job in the role, and he definitely brought this character to life, because out of all the different Spider people that you see in the Spider-Verse, he's the only one that doesn't really have the best sense of humor, or even a sense of humor at all, because he's been through many struggles and very traumatic past memories, and now his role in this Spider-Verse is very prominent, and every time something goes wrong, he has no choice but to be violent and angry about it. And I thought that he came off as a pretty intimidating kind of character, and considering that he's a new character, there's going to be some reveals about him and what exactly he's trying to do. And I thought that he was a great character, and to make things even better, he's still pretty funny, because his humor comes from how he's interacting with other, like, silly characters, and he's just, like, getting so annoyed by them, and I thought that's when he came off as pretty funny, so great character. And the last character I want to talk about is this one character called The Spot. Now, we saw him in one of the trailers, but they never really revealed too much about him, so I'm not going to give away too much about his character, but I will say this. He came off as very interesting. You think that they're going to take this character in one direction, but they actually do a twist on that concept to make him a much more prominent role in the story. He can come off as very funny, but when the time comes right, he also gets really intense. And I thought that Jason Schwartzman did a great job bringing this character to life. The animation, once again, is fantastic in this film. They really elevated it a little bit, because many times the CGI characters actually felt like real people. You almost forget that it is animated, because that's how great they added realistic effects, but also lets us know that this is still like a bit of a comic book movie, because they bring out the color palettes and different like paper cut kind of filters to make it look like a comic book. And of course those like big effects, like if someone's getting punched in the face, it's like pow, you see the word pow and all that stuff, and all that's greatness. There's also a bit of commentary with some cards coming at the beginning, and I also like the creative decision of putting different colored backgrounds depending on the character's emotion. Like if characters are in a situation where they're kind of uplifted, it actually turns into a bit of a white colour, but when they're down, it's like purples, blacks, and greys, and you definitely feel like the attention to detail to help the story elevate and the drama elevate definitely comes from the animation. Because when a character looks sad, they look sad. When they look like they're really angry, you can feel the anger, but of course when they're uplifted, like a Spider-Man would, they definitely really stood out. So I hope they do elevate this animation probably in the next movie, because it's just getting better and better and better. And speaking of the story in this movie is fantastic as well, because like I said, the first movie actually feels a bit small compared to this one, because this movie has way more high stakes, has way more conflicts, much more twists, turns, reveals, and characters wondering if other characters can be trusted. And I felt like that the movie also had a great mix of comedy and drama. When it's funny, it's really funny, but the dramatic parts are definitely when the movie becomes more special, because you definitely feel the weight of the situation, you relate to the pressure that's being put on these characters' shoulders, and you want to see them make it out okay. I like the different morals and subplots that these characters take. Like Miles' subplot with his parents was very interesting, because you could both feel what the parents have to go through, but there are many occasions where I ended up being really annoyed by his parents, because they sometimes make all the wrong choices. So, parenting tip, I don't think you should do some of the stuff that they do in this film. It's a good way to lose someone's trust. But we also have Gwen's story arc in the movie about letting people into her life and just not being able to open up. And I felt like that definitely made her character much more special, and definitely elevated the movie a bit more than the first one. And I also loved how the first half of the film is dedicated more to like the story of what these characters are going through before the Spider-Verse adventure across the Spider-Verse even kicks in. And you may think, oh well, it's going to take a while, so I probably won't be able to get into the first half. But the first half, I was very interested, because it was one of the reasons why I love this movie more than the first film, because they definitely took their time to tell what these characters are going through, to tell their different dilemmas, what doubts they may have with each other, that I honestly could have watched a whole movie about it, a bit of slice of life movie. It is definitely a coming of age story, just like the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. And plus, when we do get to the Adventure Across the Spider-Verse section of the film, that's when things definitely kick up even more, because we have really high intense action scenes with great visual effects, some great scores to back up the action scenes, but also, again, twists, turns, reveals that we have no idea, but we can actually catch on to some of these smart, intelligent scientific things that the movie explains. And speaking of that Spider-Verse, I'm pretty sure a lot of people already know that there is a ton of Easter eggs in the film, many cameos that you didn't see coming. There was one that wow, that was fantastic. Oh my god, wow, you just really brought that character in. That was just great. And the last third of the movie is definitely when hell breaks loose, because you realize some secrets and some twists and turns, as well as being shocked by some things that you never saw coming. Many times I didn't even know where this movie was going. I love the first one a lot, but I could kind of tell where the film was going to go, besides a few twists and turns. This one definitely took way more of a turn and made it a lot more dramatic, but also intrigue, because the ending of the movie, like I said earlier, this is a part 1, so there's going to be a part 2, and probably the third and last of the trilogy, but this movie ends on a great end point and a great cliffhanger, to the point where you don't know what's going to happen, and you're very excited, so friggin' pumped to see the third movie. And I guess the last thing I will say that I loved about this movie was still the soundtrack. While I don't think it's as good as the first one, I still enjoyed some of the songs. I mean, I might have to listen to some of the songs again, but some of the songs definitely captured the tone about the movie and what kind of film it's trying to be, and really getting the right amount of realistic pieces in to make the movie much more alive and real. To be honest, I think you could nitpick the hell out of this movie, and maybe I could, but really, for now, I don't think I can think of any problems with this movie at all. I think this is one of the greatest sequels I've ever seen, and I definitely would watch it more times. However, is there a little nitpick? Well, I will say this. While some of the songs in this movie were pretty good, I don't think they're as iconic as the first film's soundtrack. I mean, come on. Home, Sunflower, What's Up Danger, and I also felt like that the soundtrack in the first film was used for more epic scenes, more iconic scenes. I mean, come on, you're not going to replace the What's Up Danger scene with Miles finally becoming the Spider-Man he's supposed to be. But the soundtrack still in here is still really good. Overall, guys, I am so impressed and very glad that this movie lived up to some expectations as well as the first film did. But also that they raised the bar over the first movie to make me really love this one a little bit more than the first one, because not only did they keep the same team, but they also added additional writers, which means that Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are both working on the screenplay, along with another writer, but I also think that the film had different directors this time, and usually that wouldn't work because it wouldn't match the style, but not only did these directors do their homework of keeping it to the same style, but also increasing it to get an even more larger plus on that A of that little homework that they do, and they seemed like they loved doing their homework. It had great animation, great visuals, fantastic characters, some very informative morals, some great villains, dramatic scenes, comedic scenes. It raised the bar, and it definitely feels like The Empire Strikes Back, The Infinity War, The Dark Knight, Lord of the Rings 2 Towers. It's really hard to say how many Part 1 movies there are, but this is definitely a great Part 1. The way they ended is getting me so excited for Part 2 or Part 3, because there's like this one, and then that one in the future. But this movie I absolutely loved, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. It's a great movie, a masterpiece of an animated movie. I honestly cannot wait to see it again, and I cannot wait for when the third film comes out. I cannot wait to binge watch all of this one, the second one, and before I go see the third one in what's it gonna be, 9 months? At the end of March 2024, and I'm super hyped for it, because this film is a great sequel and a great addition to the Spider-Verse trilogy. But anyway, what do you think of this movie? Do you absolutely love it as much as I do? Or do you not like it? And if you don't like it, why? And what is one of your favourite sequels ever? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't seen this movie yet, go watch it. Watch it right now. Even if you're thinking that it's not going to be as good as the first one, just go see it because you'll absolutely love it. And I apologise again for less video content, but I do hope to get more done in the future. I'm definitely going to web my way into that, but honestly, I'm glad that I managed to review this film and see it, because this film is, say it with me now, it is amazing! So, I'm Daniel, reviewing movies, TV shows, doing videos, loving these movies. These movies seem to be getting better and better, and I cannot wait to see more. Till then, peace out, man.